During the initial home assessment, the admitting clinician will provide education to the patient and family to include structure assessment of home, such as a basement, small interior room without windows. If in a high-rise building, access to a small interior room off a hallway, or fastest ability to maintain location on the lowest floor of the building. Safety building when resides in a manufactured home, and fire extinguisher availability. During the initial home assessment, the admitting clinician will provide education to the patient and family to include patient education regarding surrounding structure for rotting trees that could fall on the home and educate on importance of removing. If outside with lightning, seek shelter in a low area such as a ravine or valley, but be alert for flash flooding. If on open water, get to land and find shelter. Call 911 in the event of severe spring weather emergencies that cause a need for emergency evacuation, and have an evacuation plan documented in the electronic medical record. Basic safety tips. Identify a safe room, the lowest floor in the home, interior room without windows. Be alert to changing weather conditions. Look for approaching storms. Look for the following danger signs: dark greenish skies, large hail, large dark low-lying clouds that often rotate. What should our patients or families do in the event of a tornado watch? Ensure TV or radio or smartphone is on and monitor storm's activity. Ensure evacuation plan is reviewed. Ensure emergency contacts are notified of potential storm. And do not open windows. What should our patients or families do in the event of a tornado warning? Take immediate cover in predetermined room. Do not open windows. Do not get in a car or vehicle and try to outrun the storm. What should our patients do after a tornado or severe spring weather event? If trapped, do not try to move around or kick up dust. Tap on a pipe or wall. Listen to local radio or TV for further instructions or updates. Watch out for debris and downed power lines. What should a Wesley Life team member do if they are present in the event of a severe spring weather watch event? Turn on the TV or radio so the patient will receive the latest weather updates and emergency instructions. Remind and educate the patient on locations for evacuation, and ensure the patient's emergency preparedness kit is up to date and ready in the event of an evacuation. What should a Wesley Life team member do if they are present in the event of a severe spring weather warning event? Take immediate cover. Ensure appropriate medical supplies are with the patient. Do not leave the patient. Remain calm, do not panic, and notify the office. Severe winter weather. I will pause so you may read the definitions on this slide. During the initial home assessment, the admitting clinician will provide education to the patient and family to include educate the patient on the importance of proper insulation and weather stripping around doors and window sills. This will help keep warm air inside. Presence of working carbon monoxide detectors, presence of fire extinguishers in the home, fire hazards related to medical equipment or supplies. Presence of TV, radio, or weather radio to provide patient of winter weather watches and warnings. The patient's ability to summon emergency assistance. Call 911 in the event of severe winter weather, and having an evacuation plan documented in the electronic medical record. Basic safety tips. Keep space heater safety in mind. Use electric space heaters with automatic shutoff switches and non-glowing elements. Remember to keep all heat sources at least 3 feet away from furniture and drapes. Make sure your home is well insulated and that you have weather stripping around your doors and window sills to keep the warm air inside. If you have a wood-burning fireplace, consider storing wood to keep you warm if winter weather knocks out your heat. Also, make sure you have your chimney cleaned and inspected every year. Extra blankets, sleeping bags, and warm winter coats, fireplace or wood-burning stove with plenty of dry firewood or a gas log fireplace. Prepare your vehicle by doing the following. Fully winterize your vehicle. Keep an extra emergency kit specifically created for your car. Rock salt to melt ice on walkways, and sand to improve traction. Stay indoors during the storm. Make sure you have a cell phone with an emergency charging option. People who depend on electricity to operate medical equipment should have alternate arrangements in place in case power is out for an extended period of time. Fill a gallon container with water and place them in the freezer to help keep food cold. Drive only if absolutely necessary. If you must drive, travel in the day. Don't travel alone. Keep others informed of your schedule and your route. Stay on main roads and avoid back road shortcuts. Walk carefully on snowy, icy walkways. Avoid overexertion when shoveling snow. Overexertion can bring on a heart attack. Use caution, take breaks, push the snow instead of lifting it when possible, and lift lighter loads. Keep dry. Change wet clothing frequently to prevent a loss of body heat. Wet clothing loses all of its insulation value and transmits heat rapidly. If you must go outside, wear several layers of loose-fitting, lightweight, warm clothing rather than one layer of heavy clothing. The outer garments should be tightly woven and water repellent. Wear a hat and cover your mouth with a scarf to reduce heat loss. What should Wesley Life team members do in the event of severe winter weather? Turn on the TV or radio so the patient will receive the latest weather updates and emergency instructions. Remind and educate the patient on locations for evacuation, and ensure the patient's emergency preparedness kit is up to date and ready in the event of an evacuation. Wildfire safety. I will pause so you may read the definitions on this slide. During the initial home assessment, the admitting clinician will provide education to the patient and family to include: assess for an emergency plan that includes evacuation, ensure an emergency preparedness kit is prepared, observe that the home is clear and free from items that will burn, such as wood piles, dried brush, and landscaping. From 30 to 100 feet, observe for flammable vegetation that is not pruned. Assess for clean roof and gutters. Observe for garden hoses available that can reach any area of the home. Observe for large empty tubs, such as a garbage can, to fill with water. Call 911 in the event of a wildfire evacuation need, and have an evacuation plan documented in the electronic medical record. What should patients or families do in the event of a fire watch? Turn on the TV or radio. This provides the latest weather updates and emergency instructions. Know where to go in the event of ordered evacuations. Know the route to take in the event of an ordered evacuation. And keep a vehicle fueled and stocked with emergency supplies and a change of clothes. What should patients and families do in the event of a wildfire? Be ready to evacuate on short notice. If a patient or family member notices a wildfire and evacuation orders have not been received, report the fire to 911. If and when orders to evacuate are received, do so immediately. Ensure to communicate with family or friend and your home health or hospice nurse of where you are going and when you have arrived. What should patients do after a fire? Return home only after authorities say it is safe. For several hours after a fire, maintain a fire watch. Check and recheck for smoke, sparks, or hidden embers throughout the house. This includes the roof and attic. Use caution when entering burned areas as hazards may still exist, and these include hot spots, which can flare up without warning, and to evacuate immediately if you smell smoke. What should patients do after a fire? Clean their home. Wear a certified respirator and wet debris down to minimize breathing dust particles. Discard any food that has been exposed to heat, smoke, and/or soot. Do not use water that may be contaminated to wash dishes, brush teeth, prepare food, wash hands, or to make ice or baby formula. What should a Wesley Life team member do in the event of a wildfire? Be ready to evacuate on short notice. If a patient or team member notices a wildfire and evacuation orders have not been received, report the fire to 911. If and when orders to evacuate are received, do so immediately. Ensure to communicate with the office of where you are going and when you have arrived. Earthquake. I will take a minute to pause so you may read the definitions on this slide. During the initial home assessment, the admitting clinician will provide education to the patient and family to include structure assessment of patient's home, assess patient's home for items that could fall or move and cause injuries or damage, provide education on securing items, provide education regarding surrounding home structures for rotting trees that could fall on the home, call 911 in the event of an earthquake for emergency evacuation, and help develop an evacuation plan and document in the electronic medical record. What should the patient or family do in the event of an earthquake? If inside a building, drop down onto their hands or knees so not to get knocked down. Cover head and neck with arms to protect from falling debris. If in danger from falling objects, move safely by crawling for additional cover under a sturdy desk or table. If no sturdy shelter, crawl away from windows next to an interior wall. Stay away from glass, windows, outside doors, and walls, and anything that could fall, such as light fixtures or furniture. If getting safely to the floor to take cover won't be possible, actions before an earthquake to secure or remove items that can fall or become projectiles should be a priority to create spaces. Identify any windows and objects that could fall on you. Get as low as possible to the floor. People who use wheelchairs or other mobility devices should lock their wheels, bend over, and remain seated until this shaking stops. Protect your head and neck with your arms, a pillow, a book, or whatever is available. If you are in bed when you feel the shaking, stay there and cover your head and neck with a pillow. At night, hazards and debris are difficult to see and avoid. Attempts to move in the dark result in more injuries than remaining in bed. If you are outdoors when the shaking starts, move away from buildings, street lights, and utility wires. Once in the open, drop, cover, and hold on. Stay there until the shaking stops. If you are in a moving vehicle when you feel the shaking, it is difficult to control a vehicle during the shaking. If you are in a moving vehicle, stop as quickly and safely as possible and stay in the vehicle. Avoid stopping near or under buildings, trees, overpasses, and utility wires. Proceed cautiously once the earthquake has stopped. Avoid roads, bridges, or ramps that the earthquake may have damaged. What should a Wesley Life team member do if present during an earthquake? Follow the previous steps and ensure patient safety. Do not leave the patient until alternate appropriate level of care needs are met. Notify the office. What to do after an earthquake. Pay close attention to all official warnings and follow instructions on how to proceed. Loss of critical systems. Loss of phone system. Internal office communications will continue to occur within the command center. Utilize cellular phones provided to team members by Wesley Life and ability to use personal cellular phones if needed. Do not transmit patient-specific information on personal cellular phones. Loss of supplies. Each agency clinical manager or supervisor will complete routine inventory of supplies and generate an essential supply list to ensure at least 1 week of extra supplies identified will be available in the agency home office. Each agency clinical manager or supervisor will maintain a list of current suppliers and their time to deliver and an alternate supplier name list with their time to deliver. Loss of oxygen. Notify the oxygen company immediately of the need for oxygen and additional supplies. Work with other vendors to supply oxygen when needed. Secure emergency transfer for clients as indicated needing a higher level of care. Alternate supplies. Nucara Home Medical, previously known as Hammer Medical Supply, will provide supplies and equipment in the event of an emergency as outlined by their command manager. They will not put their own staff safety at risk, such as driving in an ice storm. Northwest Respiratory will provide oxygen supplies in the event of an emergency. Atlantic Bottling Company will provide bottled water for our team members to deliver to clients in need, will not make individual deliveries. Wesley Life team members will need to be proactive and aware of predicted events and ensure supplies are ordered to arrive prior to a predicted event. Documentation during software failure. Blank paper documentation will be provided to all field staff by the agency clinical manager or supervisor. Completed documentation is to be turned into the office within 48 hours of the visit completion to the clinical manager or supervisor. All documentation will be assigned to a visit and scanned into the electronic medical record once systems are online. Paper documentation will be secured in a locked filing cabinet overseen by the clinical manager or supervisor. Team member safety and communication. In the event of an emergency, the incident command manager will initiate the emergency communication to all on-duty team members, contracted team members, and volunteers. Primary communication will be via phone. Alternate communication may be via text message or email. Team member safety and communication. Employees are expected to return phone calls within 20 minutes. Text or email is not sufficient. In the event an employee cannot be reached and the employee does not return communication within 1 hour of initial communication, local EMS will be notified that we have an employee that is not able to be located. Phone calls will be made to the employee's emergency contacts, and ongoing attempts to contact the employee will take place until safety is confirmed. In the event of landline telephones are down, employees are to use provided Wesley Life cellular phones and personal cellular phones. In the event of cellular data outages, during the first 2 days of an outage, all home health and hospice team members are to report to the Network Support Center or Secondary Command Center, regardless of service area for assignments. Following the second day of communication outages, staff will be assigned certain days to report back to the office for communication and schedule needs. Employees are to utilize Wesley Life Communities for Healthy Living for any communication services that are not out of service. A list of telephone numbers of team members for emergency contact is located at the Network Support Center in Johnston. This same list can be located on the W Drive under Community Services Emergency Preparedness. Volunteers. Volunteers from agencies providing mutual aid will be assigned to duties by the command manager, obtaining and distributing supplies, making phone calls to patients, families, and team members, and assisting in various other tasks as assigned. Who is responsible for contacting team members for duty in the event of an emergency? The Executive Director for Home Health and Hospice, Leanne Thrapp. In the event Leanne Thrapp is unavailable, the responsibility will fall to each agency director. Home Health, Laura Smith. Hospice, Ari Baker. Patient and family notification. The healthcare manager will initiate communication with case managers and assign patient notification to the appropriate case manager. The case manager is to ensure documentation is located in the electronic medical record to support proper communication and safety of patients. In the event Wesley Life Home Health and Hospice internet and phone communications are disabled, a public service announcement will be made to notify the local and state EMS officials of the community emergency disaster. How does this all go together? At admission, the clinician must assign a priority level to patients and complete an evacuation assessment. This information is compiled in a report in the electronic medical record and is ran and printed every day in the office and saved on the W drive. Priority level assignments. Priority level 1. This is the patient that needs assistance within 24 hours and they typically live alone and have no support. Priority level 2 needs assistance within 24 to 48 hours. They typically live alone but have some in-home support such as a neighbor. Priority level 3, they need assistance within 72 hours. They typically live in a community, facility, and/or have in-home support. The Emergency Preparedness Report offers the following information: the patient name, address, and phone number, the evacuation status, the priority level, emergency contact information, name, address, and phone number, primary doctor and phone number, any special needs, transportation needs, evacuation plans, primary diagnosis, and the primary clinician. This report can be filtered numerous ways and is used to determine patients in a disaster area and who needs assistance first. This report is ran every weekday and is stored in hard copy in the emergency preparedness binder, sent to agency leaders, and is also stored on the W drive. Patient safety. Once a disaster or emergency has been identified, the emergency plan will be implemented by the command manager or designee. The disaster or emergency location will be identified, and patients in the disaster or emergency location will be identified by the emergency preparedness report. The healthcare manager or designee will assign the appropriate case managers for identified patients to initiate safety and evacuation needs. Patients or families will be called by case managers, and safety initiatives will occur again based on patient need. Wesley Life will maintain a list of all disabled, homebound patients and will notify the fire department in the event of severe weather. We will provide them an address in DME only, no names. Patients that reside in a community and long-term care will follow that community's emergency plan. The case manager will ensure proper documentation is located in the EMR, and most typically in an assisted living, emergency plans are in place, but always follow up to ensure the patient is safe. If patient needs cannot be met in their home, we will transfer to a higher level of care. Wesley Life Home Health and Hospice have obtained transfer agreements with other Wesley Life communities. Transfer agreements are with Wesley Acres, The Village, Edgewater, Heritage House, Hearthstone, Jefferson Place, and Park Center. Transfer of care. This decision is made by the agency executive director. The executive director or designee is to arrange transportation. The clinical manager or supervisor is to provide appropriate medical information to the accepting facility. In the event of an emergency evacuation, patients should call 911. Non-emergency transportation services. We currently have contracts with Wesley Wills and Midwest Ambulance. This is for non-emergency transportation services. The emergency plan. The plan is located in hard copy at the Network Support Center in Johnston with the agency director. The plan is located in electronic form on the W drive in the Community Services folder under Emergency Preparedness. All supporting documentation for the plan, including policies and procedures, is located with the plan both in hard copy and electronic form. Team member safety. Wesley Life team members should have the KCCI weather app downloaded on their work-provided cell phone with alerts set up for providing counties. If you do not have the KCCI weather app downloaded on your work-provided cellular phone, please see the IS department and have them download this app on your phone. Weather websites. I will pause so you may see contact information to obtain weather-related updates. This slide provides information to obtain road conditions. Post-disaster recovery. Following any implementation of the emergency plan, the plan is reviewed using the non-emergency management plan evaluation form. Overall event is reviewed. Each step is broken down and looked at to ensure everything was completed timely and that patients and team members had their safety needs met. Areas for improvement are identified and plans put into place to improve these areas. Personal cleaning for patients is not a service provided by Wesley Life due to the patient's safety could be at risk if cleaning is not completed properly. We would refer all patients to a professional cleaning service such as Service Masters. Post-disaster debriefing and counseling is offered to team members in the event additional support is needed. This can be provided by the social worker Amy Dombrowski or through the Employee Assistance Program. Both options are confidential.